Every year at Convocation, UBC has the honor of bestowing its highest honor. It's called an Honorary Doctorate upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. These individuals graduate with you. They are part of the class of 2019, just like you. They are your classmates. They haven't been in your classes, but believe me, when you hear this story, you can see why we are honoring them. Now, why do we do this on graduation day? It's intentional. We've been talking about what you have achieved, and we've talked about graduation being about imagining your future. Here we bring individuals who are 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years older than you, who have had a little bit more time, more chapters, more innings in their game, if you will. And I've told you that we firmly believe that each and every one of you has the capacity to change the world. We believe in the power of one, each and every one of you. And it's amplified if you look at this entire group, this entire class collectively. What you can do is extraordinary, and each and every one of you can play a part. In honoring these individuals that are slightly older than you, the idea is that hopefully, in hearing their life stories, that they will inspire you and give you an example of what you yourself can do. Today we honor Rebecca Scott. She exemplifies these characteristics. She will inspire you and she will address you. I invite Rebecca Scott to step forward to receive her honorary degree. Mr. Chancellor, Beckie Scott was an 11-year member of Canada's national cross-country ski team, retiring in 2006 as Canada's most decorated athlete ever in her sport. A 3-time Olympian, she is also internationally recognized for her advocacy for clean, fair, doping-free sport. She won her first World Cup medal in 2001. A year later, she won a gold medal in the combined pursuit event at the 2002 Winter Olympic Games. She originally finished third in the event, but was upgraded to the gold medal when both the winner and the runner-up were disqualified for using performance-enhancing drugs. The incident validated her previous efforts to maintain integrity in sport, beginning with her work in 2001 to help circulate an athlete's petition requesting the establishment of an independent drug testing body for all World Cup and Olympic cross-country skiing competitions. At the 2006 Winter Olympic Games, she and partner Sarah Renner won silver medals in the team sprint. She retired in 2006 with 17 career World Cup medals, ranking second in the overall World Cup standings. Even though her racing career is over, she continues the tireless efforts for clean competition as chair of the World Anti-Doping Agency's Athlete Committee. In recognition of her achievements, she has been inducted into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame, the Canadian Ski Hall of Fame, and was recently appointed as an officer of the Order of Canada. Beckie Scott is also founder and CEO of Spirit North, a sports for development organization working to improve the lives of Indigenous children and youth through the transformative power of sport and play. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of her extraordinary achievements in sport, for her tireless advocacy for fair play among athletes of all nations, and for her innovative commitment to Indigenous children and youth, I ask you to confer the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, upon Rebecca Scott.
By the authority of the Senate of the Okanagan University, I confer upon you, Rebecca Scott, the title and degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
Class of 2019, it gives me great pleasure to welcome, and please welcome, your classmate with an honorary doctorate, Dr. Scott, to give you some words of encouragement and inspiration. Please give her a round of applause. Dr. Scott.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is a real and heartfelt honor. Good morning, a very early good morning to you all, Mr. Chancellor, Professor Ono, Professor Buzzard, parents, family, friends, acquaintances, but most importantly, graduates. I am honored and privileged to have been invited to graduate with you. I like the emphasis on older. I like to think of myself as not that much older, but anyway, I'm happy to share in this experience, and I want to start by extending my heartfelt congratulations to you all, to the class of 2019. On this day of celebration, you probably thought I was coming here all the way to Kelowna to talk to you about success and achievement and all the ways and means and paths to excellence. But I'm actually going to talk to you about failure and lessons through failure, and in parallel with that, the critical importance of values. I know that probably doesn't sound like the most inspiring set of topics we could cover this morning, but stay with me, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things, and in particular how they shaped my own personal journey through sport and after sport. I grew up in Vermilion, Alberta, which is a small town on the northeastern side of the province. It's nestled somewhere between the world's largest sausage and the world's largest Easter egg. My mom and dad started the local ski club in Vermilion. They actually cut the trails there, and my home bordered the provincial park where the trails were, so I could literally ski out my back door. So for me, in the early days, skiing and sport was very much about family, and it was very much about community. I once heard a comedian describe cross-country skiing as something like alpine skiing with the fun taken out of it. I'm sure some of you will agree, but and one could argue there wasn't much else to do in Vermilion in the winters. But you know, for me as a kid, it was great. I loved it. It was social, my friends were doing it, and ski racing and competing just became a very natural extension of all of that. I want to emphasize here at this juncture that as a kid, I was not a talented athlete. I did not have any special skills or abilities, and I certainly didn't have anyone pointing to me and saying, that kid's going somewhere, or that's going to be an Olympic champion. In fact, one of my favorite quotes was actually from my mom, who's here today, when the press asked her after the Salt Lake City Olympics, if you could sum up how you're feeling in one word today, would it be proud? And she said, no, astonished. So it wasn't winning races that drew me in initially, but rather it was the feeling of connecting to something outside of myself that was unique and exciting. And it was there that I found my voice and my community and my profession. So at a very young age, I decided that I wanted to be a ski racer. And for many years, I spent my winters traveling around Alberta and later on throughout Canada. And it was all going really well for a long time. And then I turned 19 and I made the Canadian national team. And I qualified to start racing the World Cup circuit in Europe. I was young and I was focused and fresh and determined and blissfully unaware of the disaster that lay ahead. Because the truth is, in those days, the Canadian team was one of the worst performing on the circuit. Only the Americans were a little bit worse than us. And I ended up marrying one of them, and he doesn't like it when I say that, but oh well, he's not here today. But we had been for decades before that, and there was even a running joke on the team that the only way you'd see a top result is if you turned the results sheet upside down. So it was tough going. But on top of that, there was this unspoken belief system that existed almost universally, which was that success in the sport of cross-country skiing at the World Cup or World Championship or Olympic level was reserved for the Europeans, for athletes from Norway and from Sweden, from Russia. We'll talk about those guys later. But if you were a North American, the best you could hope for, the top result you should go for was a top 30 in the finish. It was intensely competitive, and the depth of field was enormous, and it was extremely hard. And it was all compounded by the fact that there was rumors everywhere about the amount of performance-enhancing drug use that was going on and doping that was going on in our sport. So right away, right after crossing the threshold into international sport and cross-country skiing, I just felt this incredible double whammy of first being a North American up against these seemingly insurmountable odds in this European-dominated field, but also knowing that the playing field was very far from level. In spite of that, I still managed to qualify for my first Olympic Games in Nagano in 1998, which went more or less as poorly as they could have. I remember having breakfast with Katrina Lemaidon. She's a two-time Olympic champion in speed skating, and it was the day after she had won her Olympic gold medal. I had been 52nd in my race. And I remember thinking very clearly that I wish I was her. I wish I was going home with an Olympic medal and all the excitement and all the accolades and all the feelings of pride that must accompany that. But instead, I was going home with a handful of 40 to 50th place finishes and the Asian flu. Yes, a nice bonus. And I was utterly depressed because for the first time in my life, for the first time since starting my career in sport, I actually felt like maybe I did not belong. Don't worry, it gets better. But I will say that it was very hard at times to resist the feeling that I was a failure at the one thing that I had been pursuing since I was a little kid. And it was very hard at times to find reasons to continue to believe and reasons to continue to carry on. But I did. For some reason, I kept going. I kept trying. I kept picking myself up after every failure and every fall down. And I attribute that to the somewhat perhaps naive belief at the time that just because I didn't know yet if it could be done, just because it hadn't yet been done, it didn't mean necessarily that it couldn't be done. And until I knew that for sure, I was going to keep trying. And so that's what I did. And myself as an individual and our group as a team, we kept trying. And in retrospect, I think that starting at the bottom of the heap was probably the best place I could have started. Because first, there was nowhere to go but up, which is always encouraging. But second, because failure can be a fantastic teacher if you're ready to learn. And I was. And so it was a gradual process. It was fitting all the pieces together and pulling all the lessons and all the learnings and all the ways and means of improving and working hard day in and day out, year over year over year. But eventually things began to change. And we began the slow ascent out of 50th and 60th place finishes and into the realm of the top 30. And then it was the top 20. And then it was the top 10. And then it was 4 years later. And we were going into Salt Lake City at the Olympics of 2002. And for the first time, the Canadian team, the Canadian cross-country ski team, had a legitimate medal hopeful going into the Olympic Games. And that medal hopeful was me. No pressure. But actually, there was a lot of pressure. But by that point, I could embrace the pressure. I felt that I had done all that could be done. And I stepped up to that race with one thought in my head, which was, nobody knows yet that it can't be done. Nobody, not even you, not even me, knows what you can't do. I finished that day in 3rd place. I won a bronze medal. And then the days following that race, we celebrated it like it was platinum. It was magic and a milestone that was history in the making, not just for me, but for my team. Every one of them now had that barrier broken. And every one of them now knew that from that point forward, anything was possible. They were thinking, if I could do it, or if she can do it, I can do it. A few days later, I got a phone call on my way to training that would become a defining moment in my life. The 2 women who had finished in front of me, the gold and silver medalists from that race, had tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And over the course of the next 2 years, those athletes would go through a process of disqualification that would see my medal upgraded from a bronze to a silver and eventually gold. Yes, I am the only Olympic athlete to have had 3 medals for only doing 1 race. And no, I did not get to keep them all. I know somebody in the crowd is wondering that. I had to give them back. I got to keep the gold only. The second most common question I received during those 2 years after the one about getting to keep them all was whether or not I had known that the Russian women ahead of me had been doping. The short answer actually is yes. I had a very good idea. The common belief in cross-country skiing at that time was that doping was rampant, and it was generally accepted as an open secret in our sport. I remember talking to my mom before the games in 2002 and relaying my despair and my frustration about the injustice of it all. And she said to me, if you know there's a problem, and you're aware of the problem, and you're not doing something to change it or to confront it, you're part of the problem. Eye-opening, to say the least. But for the next 2 years, while I waited for that medal to be upgraded and for all the disqualifications and appeals to go through the Court of Arbitration for Sport, I also decided I was no longer going to be part of the problem. Because I just couldn't reconcile all this hope and belief and faith that I had put into sport with what was actually happening in it and what was actually going on behind the scenes. I just couldn't stand by and watch and be a spectator. That decision was based solely on my values, and it set me on a path that landed me directly in the heart of international sport politics, which is a place of very powerful hierarchy and perhaps one of the world's longest-standing old boys clubs. No part of being a young woman speaking truth to power in those hallowed halls where sport is a massive and hugely profitable industry was easy or comfortable. It meant enduring an incredible personal toll at times. But I carried on because I knew then, as I still know now, what I was fighting for, which is the power that sport holds, the incredible potential that it has to do good, to transcend barriers, to bring people together, to tell stories of the human spirit like no other element that we have. But it has to be good sport. And by that I mean a place that we can continue to look for inspiration and integrity and values. a place that we can still look to symbolize the best of us. That is worth fighting for, and that is worth protecting. And we all have a role. We all have a role. In my life after ski racing, I discovered another way to look at sport, and that is through the lens of sport for social development, and as a means through which to address the physical and mental health crisis that is facing Indigenous children and youth in this country. Sport not as a way to excellence necessarily, but as a way for engagement and empowerment and education and opportunity. Sport is a platform to improve the health and the well-being of the most disadvantaged and marginalized children and youth in this country. So I started Spirit North, and it's an organization about health and wellness, but it's also about reconciliation, and it's as much about skills and fitness as it is about laughter and light and joy and creating opportunities that maybe didn't exist before. I often describe my life as having one foot in the dark side of sport, which is anti-doping and corruption and all that goes on there, and one foot in the light side, which is the work with Spirit North and Indigenous kids through Sport for Development. And anchored in the middle there is just me, a kid from Vermilion with a very strong belief in the importance of doing what is right and what is just and what is fair. Which brings me back to you, graduates, and the message I want to leave you with today as you leave this chapter of your life and embark on the next one in your journeys, wherever they go and wherever they take you. And the first is about failure. I said I was going to talk about it, and I'm coming back to it. But don't let failure deter you. Use it, embrace it, learn from it. Let it show you the ways and means of how to improve, how to be better. Don't let naysayers deter you. Walk proudly and stand tall against forces that may work against you. All those unspoken belief systems, they're just that. Stay true to your values and your beliefs. You are educated and you live in a country of opportunity and of freedom. You have a platform and you have a voice. But with that all comes responsibility. You have a profound responsibility to contribute to the greater good, because you can and because you should. This planet, this world, this society, these are trying times. Nobody has to tell you that, least of all me. And in so many ways and on so many levels, we need everybody doing their part, but especially you. So get involved, find your way, find your path, and be part of the solution. And finally, as you go forward from here, beyond this platform that has been UBC Okanagan for you, be fearless and be courageous as you look to whatever's next, the exciting and unlimited opportunities that lay out there for you, because nobody, not even you, nobody knows what you can't do. So, thank you very much again. Congratulations to you all, and I wish you all the very best.